The courtroom was tense. Every seat was filled, and the air felt heavy with anticipation. The young boy, no older than 12, stood in the witness box, his small frame trembling slightly. His eyes, wide with fear and determination, locked onto the judge sitting high above him. The prosecutor had just finished his questioning, and the defense attorney was about to step forward when the boy suddenly raised his hand, pointing directly at the judge. His voice, though shaky, cut through the silence like a knife. "You're the killer." Gasps erupted across the room. The judge's face went pale. The lawyers froze mid-motion. Even the jury members exchanged shocked glances. No one had expected this, least of all the judge himself. The boy didn't back down. His finger remained steady, his accusation hanging in the air like a storm about to break. The judge, a stern man with years of experience, seemed at a loss for words. His usual commanding presence wavered for the first time. The prosecutor, recovering first, stepped forward. "Young man, do you understand what you're saying?" The boy nodded, his voice firmer now. "I saw him. That night. He was there." Murmurs spread through the courtroom. The judge finally found his voice. "This is highly irregular. The boy is clearly confused." "I'm not confused," the boy shouted, tears welling in his eyes. "I remember his face. He hurt my sister." The room fell dead silent again. The judge's expression darkened, but something flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like fear. The defense attorney, sensing the shift, quickly approached the bench. "Your Honor, perhaps we should take a recess." "No." The boy's voice was desperate now. "He can't run away again. He has to answer." The judge's hands clenched on the desk. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, the judge said, "Clear the courtroom." The bailiffs hesitated but obeyed, ushering out the stunned spectators. Only the lawyers, the jury, the boy, and the judge remained. The heavy doors closed with a thud, sealing them inside. The boy didn't lower his hand. His chest rose and fell rapidly, but he stood his ground. The judge leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. "What exactly do you think you know, child?" The boy swallowed hard but didn't back down. "Everything." And with that single word, the trial took a turn no one could have predicted. The judge's knuckles turned white as he gripped the edge of his desk. His sharp eyes bore into the boy, but the child didn't flinch. The air in the courtroom felt electric, as if one wrong word could spark an explosion. The prosecutor, a tall man with a deep voice, stepped forward cautiously. "Your Honor, perhaps we should." Silence. The judge's command was icy. His gaze never left the boy. "Explain yourself." The boy took a shaky breath. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "That night, the night my sister disappeared. I saw you." A ripple of shock passed through the remaining people in the room. The jury members shifted uncomfortably. The defense attorney, a woman with sharp features, opened her mouth to object but hesitated. The judge's face was unreadable. "You expect this court to believe a child's wild accusation?" The boy's eyes filled with tears, but his voice grew stronger. "I was hiding in the closet when you came in. I saw you, arguing with her." Then, his voice cracked. "Then you hurt her." The prosecutor's eyes widened. "Your Honor, if this is true." The judge slammed his gavel down. "Enough. This is a courtroom, not some dramatic spectacle." He turned to the bailiff. "Remove the boy. He's clearly traumatized and confused." The bailiff moved toward the witness stand, but the boy suddenly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled photograph. "I have proof." The room froze. The prosecutor stepped closer. "What is that?" The boy held up the photo, a faded image of a man in a dark coat standing outside a house. The face was slightly blurred, but the resemblance to the judge was unmistakable. The judge's breath hitched. For the first time, real fear flashed in his eyes. The prosecutor took the photo, examining it closely. This changes everything. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, I must insist on a recess while we investigate this. The judge's voice was dangerously calm. No. The trial will proceed as scheduled. The defense attorney finally spoke up. With all due respect, if there's even a chance this allegation is true, we cannot ignore it. The boy wiped his tears with his sleeve. Please, my sister's gone because of him. Don't let him get away with it. The judge's mask of authority slipped for just a second, his lips twitched, his eyes darted toward the exit. But then, just as quickly, his expression hardened. This is absurd. I will not entertain baseless accusations from a child. The prosecutor clenched his jaw. Then let the jury decide. If the boy's testimony and this photo are presented as evidence. You're out of line, the judge snapped. The tension in the room was suffocating. The jury members whispered among themselves. The bailiffs stood uncertainly, waiting for orders. Then, in the heavy silence, the courtroom doors creaked open. A woman stood in the doorway, her face pale, her hands shaking. She looked at the boy, then at the judge, and her voice came out in a broken whisper. He's telling the truth. Every head turned toward her. The boy's eyes widened. Mom. The woman took a step forward, tears streaming down her face. I was too scared to speak before, but I can't stay silent anymore. She pointed at the judge, her voice trembling with rage and grief. You took my daughter. You destroyed our family. The judge's face went deathly pale. His hands gripped the desk as if he might collapse. The prosecutor's voice was firm. Your Honor, I move for an immediate suspension of this trial, and for you to recuse yourself from this case. The judge didn't answer. His eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal. The boy's mother walked forward, her voice stronger now. It's over. Everyone will know what you did. The judge suddenly stood, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is a conspiracy. I will not. But before he could finish, the bailiffs, now looking at him with suspicion, stepped closer. One of them spoke quietly. Sir. I think you should come with us. For a long, terrifying moment, no one moved. Then, the judge did something no one expected. He ran. The judge moved faster than anyone expected. Before the bailiffs could react, he shoved past the prosecutor and bolted for the side door reserved for court staff. His black robes flapped behind him as he disappeared into the hallway. For a split second, the courtroom was frozen in shock. Then chaos erupted. Stop him, the prosecutor shouted. Bailiffs sprinted after the judge, radios crackling with urgent calls for backup. The boy's mother clutched her son tightly, her face streaked with tears. The jury members stood in stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about the law, about justice, had just shattered in front of them. Outside the courthouse, the judge ripped off his robe and tossed it into a trash bin. His expensive suit made him look like just another businessman as he melted into the midday crowd. But his eyes gave him away, wild, panicked, darting at every passing face. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number with shaking fingers. It's me. I need help. Now. Meanwhile, inside the courthouse, police swarmed the building. The prosecutor was already on the phone with the chief of police. We have a fugitive judge, possibly involved in a kidnapping or worse. Activate every unit. The boy, still in the courtroom, stared at the empty judge's seat. His small hands were clenched into fists. He can't get away. His mother knelt beside him. He won't, she whispered, though her voice trembled. Not this time. 2 hours earlier. No one had noticed the old janitor watching the trial from the back of the courtroom. His wrinkled face showed no reaction as the boy pointed at the judge, but his grip tightened on his mop. When the chaos started, he slipped out unnoticed. Now, standing in a dimly lit alley behind the courthouse, he made a call. "It's happening," he said quietly. "The kid just accused him. He's gonna run." A gruff voice on the other end responded, "We're ready. Present time, judge on the run." The judge ducked into a parking garage, breathing hard. His car was here, clean, untraceable, always prepared for emergencies. Just a few more steps. Then headlights flashed. A black van screeched to a halt in front of him, blocking his path. The side door slid open. "Going somewhere, Your Honor?" The judge stumbled back, but strong hands grabbed him from behind. A hood was yanked over his head. He kicked and thrashed, but a sharp pain in his neck made his limbs go heavy. The last thing he heard before darkness swallowed him was a cold voice saying, "Time to face what you've done." Back at the courthouse. Police found the judge's abandoned robe, but no sign of the man himself. News vans swarmed the steps, reporters shouting questions about the corrupt judge and the brave boy who exposed him. The prosecutor sat with the boy and his mother in a quiet office. "We'll find him," he promised. "But I need to understand, how did you recognize him? Why now?" The boy looked down at his hands. "After my sister went missing. I had nightmares. But I couldn't remember his face. Then, last week, I saw him on TV. A news story about this trial. And suddenly, I remembered everything." His mother squeezed his shoulder. "He's been scared to speak up. We both have. That man, he has powerful friends." The prosecutor's phone buzzed. He read the message, then looked up sharply. "We may have a lead." A security camera caught a van near the courthouse, unmarked, but someone got a partial plate. "Who would take him?" the mother asked. The prosecutor hesitated. "Honestly? I don't know. But if he's as dangerous as you say, someone else might want justice too." An abandoned warehouse, nightfall. The judge woke up handcuffed to a metal chair, the hood ripped from his head. A single bulb swung overhead, casting eerie shadows. 3 masked figures stood in front of him. "Who the hell are you?" he snarled, trying to sound brave. The tallest figure stepped forward. "Let's just say, we're people your money can't silence anymore." A laptop opened on a nearby table, screen glowing. The judge's blood ran cold as he saw the footage, his own face, clear as day, entering a house the night the boy's sister vanished. "Where did you get that?" "Doesn't matter," the figure said. "What matters is what happens next. The police are looking for you. But we found you first." The judge's breath came fast. "You don't understand, I can explain." "No explanations," the figure interrupted. "Just answers. Where is the girl?" The judge's mouth opened, then closed. His shoulders sagged. For the first time in his life, the man who'd spent years passing judgment on others had nothing to say. The warehouse was silent except for the judge's ragged breathing. The masked figures stood motionless, waiting. The laptop screen cast a sickly glow on his sweaty face. There was no denying the footage. Him. That night. The house. The tallest figure leaned in. "Last chance. Where is she?" The judge's throat worked soundlessly for a moment before the words spilled out in a rush. "I didn't kill her. I swear. She's alive." A ripple passed through the room. The figures exchanged glances. "Prove it," the leader demanded. The judge swallowed hard. "There's a cabin. North of the lake. She's been there this whole time. One of the masked men pulled out a phone and typed rapidly. After a tense moment, he gave a short nod. It's real. Abandoned forestry post, no neighbors for miles. The leader's voice turned dangerously quiet. Why? The judge's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal. She found out about the money. The deals I made with certain people. I just needed time to make her understand. You kidnapped a child to silence her? The leader's voice shook with barely controlled fury. No. I paid someone to watch her. She was safe. A heavy silence fell. Then, from the shadows near the door, a new voice spoke, hoarse, trembling, but unmistakable. Liar. The judge's head snapped up. The boy's mother stepped into the dim light, her face streaked with tears. You took my daughter because she saw you with those men. Because she recognized you from the news. You were scared a 12-year-old girl would ruin you. The judge's mouth opened and closed. No denials came this time. The leader turned to the woman. We'll take you to the cabin. But him? A glance at the judge. That's your call. The woman stared at the man who'd destroyed her family. For a long moment, the only sound was the judge's shaky breaths. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a police badge. You're not the only one who knows powerful people, she said coldly. My brother's been working this case for months. He's 5 minutes out with handcuffs and a warrant. The judge's face crumpled. You set this up. The woman didn't blink. We knew you'd run. Knew you'd have a plan. So we made sure you'd run right to us. One of the masked men pulled off his hood. It was the old janitor from the courthouse. He gave the judge a grim smile. Funny thing about justice. Sometimes it wears a disguise. Sirens wailed in the distance. The judge sagged in his chair, all fight gone. The woman turned to leave, but not before delivering one final blow. Oh, and your honor? That paid someone to watch my daughter? Her smile was ice. Turns out he's been working with us too. 3 hours later, the cabin. The police convoy arrived at the crumbling forestry cabin just as dawn broke. The boy clung to his mother's hand as officers breached the door. Then, a gasp. A shout. We've got her. She's alive. The girl stumbled out, blinking in the sunlight, wrapped in an officer's jacket. She was thinner, her hair matted, but her eyes were the same as her brother's. The boy broke free and sprinted toward her. The collision of their embrace sent both children tumbling to the ground, laughing and crying at once. Their mother fell to her knees beside them, her sobs mixing with theirs. Nearby, the prosecutor watched, his phone pressed to his ear. Yes, sir. We have him. And sir? We've got the names of everyone involved. This goes deep. Epilogue, 1 week later. The judge sat in a cell very different from his courtroom bench. No robes. No gavel. Just orange scrubs and the constant buzz of fluorescent lights. On the small TV bolted to the wall, the news played silently. His face. His crimes. The rescued girl hugging her brother. The scrolling text at the bottom said it all, disgraced judge sentenced to life as corruption probe expands. He put his head in his hands. Somewhere beyond those walls, the boy and his sister sat at a kitchen table, eating pancakes their mother made. The sister paused, syrup dripping from her fork. Is it really over? She asked quietly. Their mother stroked her hair. The bad part is. The boy reached over and stole a piece of bacon from his sister's plate. She swatted at him, giggling. The sound filled the room like sunlight. Outside, the world kept turning. But in that moment, for the first time in a long time, their family was whole again. The morning sun streamed through the hospital windows as doctors finished examining the rescued girl. Her physical wounds would heal, but the nurse kept her voice gentle when she said, "Someone from Child Services will want to talk to you about everything." The girl's fingers tightened around her brother's hand. "I already told the police." Their mother, sitting on the edge of the bed, brushed a tear away before it could fall. "Just one more time, sweetheart. Then we're done." Down the hall in the family waiting room, the prosecutor paced like a caged animal. His phone buzzed, again. The screen showed 14 missed calls from numbers he didn't recognize. When the detective finally arrived, he nearly lunged at him. "Tell me you found them." The detective, a weary man with coffee stains on his tie, shook his head. "The 3 men who grabbed the judge? Vanished. But we got something better." He dropped a thick file on the table. "Bank records. The judge didn't act alone." Flashback, 6 months earlier. The judge adjusted his robe before entering the private back room of the courthouse. The 2 men waiting there didn't stand. "You're late," said the man in the expensive overcoat. "Justice moves slowly," the judge quipped, taking the offered whiskey. The 3rd man, younger with cold eyes, cut to the chase. "The warehouse raid case hits your desk next week. We need those evidence boxes to disappear." The judge swirled his drink. "And my payment?" Overcoat man slid an envelope across the table. "Half now. Half when the case gets dismissed." None of them noticed the courthouse intern taking out the trash outside the cracked window. A teenage girl with wide eyes, frozen in place, a phone silently recording in her hand. Present day, police station. The prosecutor slammed his fist on the table, making the detective jump. That's why he took her. She had video proof of him taking bribes. The detective nodded grimly. "We traced the other men in that video. One's a city councilman. The other." He hesitated. "Head of the police union." For the first time, the prosecutor looked afraid. "This goes higher than we thought." Safe house, nightfall. The boy pretended to sleep as the adults whispered in the kitchen. His mother's voice shook. "They'll come after us now. You know they will." A new voice answered, the janitor from the courthouse, though he looked nothing like a janitor now in his tactical gear. "That's why you're disappearing tonight. New identities. New home." "And the others?" the mother asked. "The ones helping us?" The man's face darkened. "Some fights you can't walk away from." Through cracked eyelids, the boy saw the man place a gun on the table. His mother didn't flinch when she saw it. Breaking news broadcast. Chaos at City Hall tonight as federal agents arrested Councilman Reynolds in connection with the alleged corruption ring. In a shocking twist, sources confirm the judge's testimony led directly to. The TV in the diner cut out as the waitress unplugged it. The family in the corner booth, a woman and 2 quiet children, didn't react. They left exact change on the table and exited through the kitchen. The boy was the last one out. As the door swung shut behind him, he finally smiled. Somewhere, the judge was learning what happens to men who break their deals. Somewhere, bad men were waking up to police at their doors. And somewhere far from here, a sister squeezed her brother's hand under a new sky, and for the first time in forever, wasn't afraid of the dark. The safehouse shower ran endlessly as steam fogged the bathroom mirror. The boy pressed his ear against the door, listening to his mother's muffled sobs. She thought she was being quiet. She wasn't. His sister tugged his sleeve. "Is Mom okay?" she signed with trembling hands, a new habit since coming home. Some things still didn't feel safe to say out loud. Before he could answer, a sharp knock rattled the front door. 3 taps. Pause. 2 more. The janitor turned protector, they called him uncle now, though no one meant it, moved like a shadow to the peephole. His shoulders relaxed slightly. "It's her." The woman who entered wore a nurse's scrubs and carried a duffel bag that clinked suspiciously. She didn't bother with hellos. They found Reynolds' body in his cell. Suicide, supposedly. She locked eyes with the mother. Your testimony's the only thing left that can bring down the rest of them. The mother's hands didn't shake as she accepted the gun the nurse pulled from the bag. How long do we have? Less than we thought. The nurse turned to the children and forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Who wants to learn how to make a proper Molotov cocktail? County jail, visitor's room. The judge looked decades older, orange jumpsuit hanging off his frame. His expensive lawyer leaned close. They're offering witness protection if you testify against. I know what they're offering, the judge snapped. His eyes darted to the guard by the door, too close. He lowered his voice to a whisper. Tell them I want guarantees. Not just for me. 4. The lawyer's phone buzzed. The color drained from his face as he read the text. Reynolds is dead. For the first time since his arrest, real fear flashed in the judge's eyes. Then we're already too late. Highway rest stop, 3:17 a.m. The boy pretended to sleep as the tires hummed against asphalt. Through slitted eyelids, he watched Uncle check the rearview mirror for the 10th time in as many minutes. His sister wasn't pretending. She stared blankly at the passing streetlights, her fingers tracing the scar on her wrist, a souvenir from the cabin. Next exit's our transfer point, the nurse said from the driver's seat. The contact's supposed to. Headlights flared behind them, approaching fast. Too fast. Uncle cursed and slammed the gas. Hold on. The impact came from the left, a black SUV ramming them toward the guardrail. The mother grabbed her children as metal shrieked against metal. The world spun in a blur of shattered glass and screaming tires. When the minivan finally skidded to a stop on the shoulder, the boy's ears rang with silence. Then came the sounds, his sister whimpering, his mother's ragged breathing, the hiss of a ruptured radiator. And footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming closer. Abandoned warehouse, same night. The detective stared at the bloodstains on the concrete. You're sure it was him? The forensic tech nodded. Security camera caught Reynolds being escorted into this room by 2 men in prison guard uniforms. Problem is. She held up a personnel log. No guards were assigned to him tonight. The prosecutor's phone rang. He listened for 3 seconds before sprinting for the door. The family's convoy was just attacked. Back on the highway. The boy counted 4 shadows emerging from the SUV. The leader's voice was horrifyingly familiar. Just give us the woman and the girl. The men can walk away. Uncle coughed blood but still managed to sneer. Funny. Heard the same offer right before you killed Reynolds. A gun cocked. Last chance. The boy felt his mother's hand slip something cold into his palm. The nurse's special present from earlier. His fingers closed around the smooth glass bottle. His sister met his eyes. Nodded once. Then everything happened at once. His mother kicked open the crumpled door. Uncle lunged with a broken bottle. The boy threw the Molotov cocktail with all his strength. The explosion of flames painted the night in hellish orange as their attackers screamed. The nurse emerged from the wreckage like an avenging angel, her service pistol barking 3 precise shots. In the sudden silence, distant sirens wailed. The leader was still alive, crawling toward his gun. The boy stepped on his wrist, hard. The man looked up in shock, into the barrel of his own weapon, now held in a child's steady hands. Tell them we're not hiding anymore, the boy whispered. Then he pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. The nurse's boot came down on the man's head, knocking him unconscious. She pried the gun from the boy's hands. Nice bluff, kid. His sister hugged him so tight he couldn't breathe. He didn't mind. Dawn, police barricade. The prosecutor arrived to a war zone, burning vehicles, blood on asphalt, and 4 shell-shocked survivors wrapped in shock blankets. The nurse stood protectively near the mother. They knew our route. Knew our plans. The detective didn't bother pretending. There's a leak. High up. The mother stared at the rising sun. No more running. The boy watched as his sister picked up a detective's forgotten pen and notepad. She wrote one word in careful letters and held it up for all to see. Bait. The police chief's office smelled of stale coffee and sweat. The boy watched as the prosecutor slammed his hands on the desk, making the framed photos rattle. You expect me to use a traumatized child as bait? The prosecutor roared. The detective didn't blink. It was her idea. He nodded to the sister, who sat quietly drawing in a notepad, a detailed sketch of a man's face with a distinctive scar across his eyebrow. The mother placed a protective hand on her daughter's shoulder. She remembers him. The one who brought food to the cabin. The one who... Her voice broke. Who laughed when she cried. The boy saw his sister's hand tremble for just a second before she flipped the page and wrote. He'll come for us. Let him. County jail, visiting room. The judge's lawyer adjusted his tie nervously. They're offering full immunity. All you have to do is... Name the man at the top, the prosecutor finished, leaning across the table. The one who ordered the hit on Reynolds. The one who sent those men after the family last night. The judge's cracked lips curled into something resembling a smile. You think it's that simple? That there's just one man? He leaned forward, chains clinking. You'll be dead within a week of my testimony. The prosecutor didn't flinch. We're giving your daughter witness protection too. For the first time, real fear flashed in the judge's eyes. You leave her out of this. Too late, the detective said from the doorway. She's already talking. About the offshore accounts. The property in Belize. The judge's face went ashen. Safe house, night. The boy practiced tying knots with the nurse while his sister monitored police scanners. Their mother stared at the blueprints spread across the table, courthouse schematics with red X's marking every exit. It has to be public, the mother murmured. Somewhere they can't silence us. The nurse tested the weight of her handgun. Problem is getting out alive afterward. A knock at the door, 3 taps, pause, 2 more. Uncle entered, his face grim. We've got a location. Abandoned steel mill on the river. The judge agreed to meet the big boss there tonight. He tossed a burner phone on the table. They're tracking us. Let them. The boy's sister suddenly stood, her chair scraping loudly. She pointed urgently at her sketchbook where she'd written. No. Trap. Steel mill, midnight. Rusting machinery cast long shadows in the moonlight. The judge stood shackled between 2 federal marshals, his eyes darting to every dark corner. The prosecutor adjusted his bulletproof vest. Where is he? A voice echoed through the cavernous space, right here. A man stepped into the dim light, early 60s, impeccably dressed, with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. The boy's breath hitched. Exactly like his sister's drawing. The detective's hand went to his sidearm. Police Commissioner Harris? You've got to be kidding me. The commissioner smiled, spreading his hands. Now. I'm just here to ensure no one does anything rash. His eyes locked onto the judge. Isn't that right, old friend? The judge's voice shook. I want guarantees. For my daughter. Of course, the commissioner soothed, taking a step closer. But first, why don't you tell these nice officers how you've been lying? How this was all your idea? The boy, hidden in the shadows with his family, felt his sister's nails dig into his arm as the commissioner's hand drifted toward his jacket. "Gun!" the prosecutor shouted. 3 shots rang out simultaneously. The commissioner staggered back, a dark stain spreading across his crisp white shirt. The judge collapsed, screaming, a bullet in his leg. One of the marshals slumped against a steel beam, clutching his shoulder. From the rafters, a sniper's rifle flashed. Chaos. The boy ducked as bullets pinged off metal. His mother dragged him behind a conveyor belt as more gunfire erupted. Uncle and the nurse returned fire, their shots precise. The detective was shouting into his radio for backup. Through the smoke and sparks, the boy saw the commissioner crawling toward an emergency exit, leaving a trail of blood. The judge whimpered on the ground, abandoned. His sister suddenly broke free and ran, not away, but toward the wounded commissioner. "No!" the boy screamed, chasing after her. The commissioner turned, his face twisted in pain and rage, raising his weapon. A single gunshot echoed. The commissioner's head snapped back. Behind him, the mother stood with smoking gun, her face a mask of terrible calm. In the sudden silence, the boy reached his sister, who was kneeling beside the dying man. To everyone's shock, she reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone. Still recording. The commissioner's dying whisper was almost amused. "You think, this ends, with me?" Then his eyes went still. Dawn, police headquarters. The mood was somber as technicians worked to decrypt the commissioner's phone. The boy watched his sister sleep fitfully in a nearby chair, her fingers still twitching as if writing. The detective slumped into a seat beside him. "We found the judge's daughter. Hidden away in Switzerland." He rubbed his face. "She's willing to testify about everything, the money laundering, the hit squads, all of it." The boy looked at the commissioner's body being wheeled away. "Is it really over?" The detective followed his gaze. "For you?" "Yeah. But this kind of rot, it goes deep." He handed the boy a soda. "Your mom's filing the paperwork for your new identities. By this time next week, you'll be on a beach somewhere." The boy thought about beaches. About not looking over his shoulder. About his sister finally feeling safe. Then he noticed something, the detective's wedding ring. The distinctive crest matched one he'd seen before. On the commissioner's hand. The safehouse refrigerator hummed too loudly. The boy counted each cycle of the compressor, 3 seconds on, 17 off, while pretending to watch cartoons. His sister sat cross-legged on the threadbare carpet, reassembling a disassembled pistol for the 3rd time. Their mother hadn't slept in 38 hours. He knew because he'd been counting that too. A key turned in the lock. Everyone froze. The detective entered, holding 2 paper bags that smelled of greasy burgers. "Thought you kids might be," his voice died as he saw the sister's half-reassembled weapon. A flicker of something dark passed behind his eyes before he forced a smile. "Hungry?" The boy's stomach growled, but he kept his hands in his lap. "We're not supposed to eat before transport." Change of plans. The detective set the bags down carefully, his wedding ring glinting under the fluorescent light. The same crest as the dead commissioner's. "Your flight got moved up. We leave in 20. The mother emerged from the bedroom, her own gun conspicuously absent. "No one told me about schedule changes." The detective's shrug was too casual. "Feds work in mysterious ways." He tossed a set of car keys. "You drive the kids to the airstrip. I'll follow in the cruiser as backup." The sister suddenly stood, knocking over her gun parts. She grabbed a napkin and scrawled. "Where's Uncle?" "A beat too long." "Prepping the plane," the detective said. The boy saw 3 lies at once. Uncle always said goodbye before missions. The nurse was supposed to handle transport. Cops never let civilians drive themselves. His mother's fingers brushed his shoulder. She knew too, but her voice stayed light. "Kids, go pack your go-bags." "The garage." The boy pressed his ear against the door as the detective's muffled voice spoke rapidly. "Yes, just like we planned. No surprises. 20 minutes tops." A floorboard creaked. His sister stood behind him, holding up her notepad. "He's the one who laughed." Ice flooded his veins. The cabin guard. The scarred man's partner. Right here all along. His mother appeared silently, pressing a car key into his palm, the spare, and mouthing 2 words, "Run." Now. The highway. Tires shrieked as their sedan swerved onto the exit ramp. The detective's cruiser followed dangerously close, lights flashing but no siren. "Seatbelts," their mother ordered, voice terrifyingly calm. The boy watched the speedometer climb, 80, 90. A deafening impact rocked the car as the cruiser rammed them. His sister screamed soundlessly. "Hold on." Their mother spun the wheel hard, sending them skidding down a dirt service road. Trees whipped past in a green blur. Somewhere behind them, the detective's car got stuck in the mud, his curses carrying through the open window. The boy turned in his seat just in time to see the detective raise his service weapon. Bang! The rear window exploded in a spiderweb of cracks. The lake house. Abandoned. Boarded up. Exactly where Uncle said they should run if things went bad. The boy helped his sister through a broken basement window. His hands left red smears on the frame. When had he cut them? His mother was last inside, her shirt sleeve torn and bloody from the crash. "Trap the doors," she whispered. "Then we." A floorboard groaned upstairs. All 3 froze. Slow footsteps crossed the ceiling directly above them. A familiar voice called out, sickeningly cheerful. "Come on out, kids. We've got so much to talk about." The detective. He'd known where they'd run. The basement. The boy's pulse roared in his ears as his mother shoved them behind the furnace. Her lips moved against his ear, "Storm cellar." Outside. "Run." His sister gripped his arm, shaking her head violently. Upstairs, the detective's footsteps grew closer. "Your uncle made such interesting noises when he realized who I was. Pity you couldn't." Crash. A diversion, their mother had knocked over a shelf upstairs. The detective's laughter turned into a snarl as he gave chase. The children ran. The boathouse. Moonlight streamed through rotten planks as the siblings crouched behind moldy life jackets. The boy's hands shook as he pried open an old toolbox, rusty pliers, a broken flare gun, fishing line. His sister grabbed the flare gun, loading the single corroded cartridge with grim determination. Footsteps crunched on gravel outside. "Little rabbits," the detective sang. "Little lying, scheming rabbits. Closer." The boy's fingers closed around a fish hook. Closer. His sister raised the flare gun. The door burst open. Whoosh. The magnesium flare lit up the night, striking the detective square in the chest. He screamed, batting at his burning shirt. "Now." The boy swung the fishing line, stretched taut between 2 posts, at knee height. The detective went down hard, his gun skittering across the dock. For one perfect second, they had him. Then his hand closed around the sister's ankle. The shot. The boy dove for the gun just as the detective dragged his sister closer. "Aim. Breathe." The detective looked up, eyes wild, just as the boy. Click. Empty. The detective grinned, raising a hunting knife. Bang. A single gunshot echoed across the lake. The detective collapsed, revealing their mother standing behind him, Uncle's smoking rifle in her hands. Silence. Then. Distant sirens. Epilogue, 6 months later. Salt air. The boy inhaled deeply as waves crashed against the New Zealand shore. His sister splashed in the surf, finally laughing with sound. Their mother watched from the porch, the newspaper in her lap showing a headline. Corruption scandal topples dozens, surviving witnesses relocated. She didn't react when a familiar figure settled into the adjacent chair. Uncle sipped his lemonade, his arm still in a sling from the bullet wound. They'll keep looking, you know. She smiled, watching her children play. Let them. Far away, in an unmarked grave, a detective's ring glinted one last time before the dirt covered it forever.